And welcome to episode 13 of RaiderZone, the podcast. We're here on Microsoft Teams as we all sit comfortably in our bedrooms, dorm rooms, bathrooms, wherever we might be during this podcast as we continue to socially distance in hopes that 2021, the pandemic, will go away. We're doing our part. Hopefully everybody else is doing their part. But sports are still a go, and it's a fun thing to talk about while the world's in chaos. We'll get into baseball, basketball, some NFL, but we're going to start with baseball, which every episode it seems like we're talking about, oh, nothing's going on, but finally, a couple of weeks where baseball is making a splash. So we'll kick it off with the top free agent in the top 50 rankings finally signs as JT Realmuto agrees to a 5-year extension with the Phillies worth $115 million. And then Didi Gregorius, a great shortstop, also agrees to a 2-year extension with the Phillies worth $28 million. Brendan, I'll start with you. How big are these signings for the Phillies if they intend to compete in this tough NL East that we've seen form this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely huge. To get both those guys back and make sure that they're going to be a couple consistent pieces in your lineup. Both of them been able to have a year under their belt in Philadelphia. But it shows that Philadelphia, for a while now, has been trying to be in win-now mode. There's been signings in the past few years. Remember, they signed Santana, hoping that would work out, but that didn't. But they didn't stop trying to get elite bats in their lineup, and they've done that with Realmuto and Gregorius. Realmuto hit 266 last year for the Phillies with 32 RBIs. Then the year before that in Philadelphia with a full season, he hit 275 with 25 home runs and 83 RBIs. So he's definitely reliable. Gregorius, his numbers have been kind of declining since 2017, but if you get him in the postseason, if you get him in playing in the NLDS, NLDS and NLCS, that's where he kind of shows up. He's been steady in the postseason when the Yankees have gotten there. He's an ace killer on the postseason. He makes outings pretty much like hell for Cy Young winners and stud aces like he did against Corey Kluber. And the NL East is not going to be easy now that you have Atlanta and the Mets competing, the Marlins. Who knows what they're going to be like? But they got to the postseason last year, so definitely one of the better divisions in baseball. But it's definitely going to be hard for the Phillies to get out of there. But they'll show up this year. They're definitely going to be able to contend.
Yeah, and even the Nationals, another team. They had Josh Bell, a key closer we'll get into. So really a tough division in that. You talked about those numbers on Realmuto. Really, you don't see that very often. Realmuto, a very good defensive catcher, but also hits for an average and pop. Usually you see one or the other, like Gary Sanchez. He can hit the crap out of the ball, but he can't block to save his life. Or Roberto Perez, best defensive catcher in baseball, but he bats 150. So to see a guy have two of those, that's definitely a big piece. Best catcher in baseball, in my opinion, is Realmuto. Now the Phillies, they just got to add that pitching. Jacob, your thoughts on these two signings, what they mean for the Phillies?
Well, Will, you kind of made my point there a little bit for me. I think that they are going to be the third best team at best in this division, and I think it's simply just because the Braves are clearly better than them in my eyes, and I just think the Mets are really going to be strong this year, so I think the Mets are going to be better than them as well. And honestly, I'm not even confident in saying they're the third best team because like how Brendan pointed out, it's a very deep division this year because you don't know what the Marlins are going to be like. And really the Nationals too, they added a bunch of pieces in there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them at the bottom of the division. Now, obviously this helps them not be at the bottom of the division because like how you said, Realmuto is one of the best catchers in baseball. Gregorius is still a very good shortstop. But it's the pitching for me. I don't think that they addressed the pitching enough here in this offseason to make me confident that they're actually going to make the postseason this year. Mm-hmm. But it's just they're in a tough division, really, because I think if you throw them in, say, the NL Central in the playoffs then, because I don't think the NL Central is as strong as the NL East, but mm-hmm. It's just I think that they are in the toughest division in baseball, and they didn't address the needs that really cost them the postseason last year. It's good that they brought those guys back, but if they would address the pitching, I'd be much more confident in them contending in the East.
Yeah, I agree. The NL Central would be a perfect division for the Phillies. That's really a division they'd probably win. They battle with the Brewers, Cardinals, maybe even the Cubs. But in this NL East, you look at it now, I think the Marlins are your favorite for fifth place just because they did have that 1 year spurt, but can they put it into a 162 game season is the question. When you look at the roster, I still think the Marlins is the worst roster, so the Phillies should be able to avoid last place. But I mean, with Mattingly, and if that roster can, I mean, they're young, so maybe that was the start of something new. So you'll never know, but the Phillies definitely need these two pieces. Ben, your thoughts on these two pieces, and do you think it's enough or they need more?
Oh, they need more. They need a lot more. I mean, you got Atlanta, you got the Mets with an owner who's going to spend, and they already have started opening up the pocketbooks to get guys like Lindor. So I mean, the Mets are probably going to be a pretty good team this year, or at least solid at worst. You still got the Nats in that division. The Marlins, maybe they'll build on last year making the playoffs. So I don't think it's going to be enough to really have a big impact standings-wise for them. Maybe they'll be a wild card if they're lucky, but that's a tough division to be in.
I agree. So we'll move over to the AL East now, where we talk about a team that's kind of on the rise this offseason. The Blue Jays add another piece as they signed shortstop Marcus Semien to an $18 million contract. He was a top 10 free agent as well this offseason. Jacob, I'll start with you. They have now added George Springer, Semien, Robbie Ray, Tyler Chatwood, Kirby Yates, all to a playoff roster last year. Are the Jays becoming AL East contenders before our eyes?
I think if they could be the second best team in the East, I'm still not ready to put them over the Yankees right now, just because the experience of the Yankees really that has me saying that they're going to be the best team in the East right now. But they too, I feel like the AL East is going to be a pretty tough division as well, because Yankees are probably going to be at the top. The Rays, even though they started getting rid of guys this year, they're still going to be pretty good, I think, next season. The Red Sox, they might have some pieces that make them good again. But really, I like what the Blue Jays have done. They added a bunch of guys that really complement their roster well, and they really addressed a lot of needs. And they have those young guys like Vladdy Jr. and Biggio and all those guys. So, I mean, they're building it the right way. If you think about it, a few years ago, they had just like Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion. Then they started unloading those guys, and it was like, what are you doing? And now they're building it right back up. I think that they're going to be good for years to come now, especially with aggressive signings like this. But I'm not ready to put them at the top of the East, but they can very much be battling for a wild card spot and the second seed here in the AL East.
Yeah, I like it. Springer will be that leader in that outfield for young guys like Teoscar Hernandez. In the infield, you just see Semien helping out Bichette, Vladdy Jr., Biggio, all those young guys. So two huge veteran signings there in both outfield and the infield for the Jays. Ben, the Jays, you liking them?
I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll be interesting, but I don't know if they're top in their division just yet.
Okay. Still pitching away, honestly. I mean, Hyun-Jin Ryu, don't get me wrong, he's a great pitcher, but maybe not an ace. Brendan, your thoughts on the Jays? Are they just pitching away from contending?
Yeah, I was going to agree with that. They have, a couple starters in that rotation. I think Robbie Ray, I think, is one of them as well. But other than the pitching, they're pretty stacked. Their whole infield is stacked. I think Semien's best days are still ahead of them. You take a look at the outfield. That's where they kind of worry me a little bit. You got Springer, and then they don't have any other big named outfielders. So they'll definitely be able to contend. You take a look at that division. The Yankees are still stacked. They hardly lose anyone. Other than, I don't think they lose anyone from last year. I'm worried a little bit about Tampa Bay. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to repeat from last year as division champs. That was just a 60-game season. Can they do that throughout 162? That is a big worry for me. They lose a few of their pieces. So I think that kind of opens the door now for Toronto to try and slide into that second spot behind the Yankees and compete for a wild card. They figured out a way to make the expanded postseason last year. If they can take that next step, I think they'll be a wild card team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just pitching away from being contenders, but they will contend for that wild card spot. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do opening day with that infield. I mean, Simeon's probably gonna play shortstop. Do they move Vladdy over to first so you can have Bichette and Biggio both starting, maybe second and third or something? It's gonna be interesting to see what they do there. So we'll jump over to a team that hits home here as the Cleveland Indians here in Northeast Ohio. They finally do something worth talking about in free agency. They sign Eddie Rosario, twin slugger, to a 1-year deal worth $8 million. I'm sure we were all in agreement who's going to be in this Indians lineup that's not named Jose Ramirez. That's worth anything. Maybe Franmil Reyes. But this definitely helps a little bit. The pitching is going to get you in every game, but you definitely have no lineup help outside of now these three players. Brendan, how crucial was this signing for the Indians lineup?
I don't know. I mean, let's take a look. So you'll have Rosario in left field, probably Oscar Mercado in center.
Yeah.
If he can start hitting, if he can keep that spot. I mean, that's not a guarantee. If he can keep producing in the lineup, he'll be in center. Right field, you're going to put Josh Naylor out there,
Probably.
Jordan Luplow.
If there's a lefty on the mound, you play Luplow.
We still have Naylor, right? I mean, they re-signed him because he was like a spark plug in that that late in the season, that wild card series. I mean, I kind of have some faith in him. I mean, when I look at this team, the only way that they're going to be able to, I think, be in games, contend in games, if you can get these outfielders on base, because they can hardly hit. I mean, Rosario can hit, but I don't have trust in Mercado and Luplow and Naylor to, consistently give you run production. If they can get on base, if they can figure out a way to draw walks, just find a way to get on base. You have Ramirez, Hernandez, Reyes to try and drive those runs home.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be the key. Moneyball, basically.
Yeah.
They're going to have to play Moneyball in order to win. You said, pitching is there. I'm not even sure anymore. You got Bieber, then
Plesac, and Savali.
Yeah, but is Plesac going to be able to give you 15 wins a season? Savali going to give you 15 wins a season?
I think they could.
Not if they can get the run help.
Yeah.
If they can get some help.
I don't know if anyone on the Indians can get a 15-win season. I'm not even sure Bieber's going to win 10 games.
No, come on, don't go there.
If Bieber gives one run, that's not a guaranteed win. That's more likely a loss than a win most times.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a weird season. I don't know what Perez is going to do. Is Bowers going to be the Bowers that we got him for? They might have to go down to Columbus and bring up some guys.
The first
Bobby
base
Bradley.
position is going to be weird. They were talking about Bobby Bradley, but there's rumors that why can't I think of his name? Nolan, the top prospect at third base.
Nolan Jones.
Yeah, Nolan Jones. They're trying him out at first base, so maybe he makes his MLB debut at that position. So there's a lot of question marks in that Indians lineup, and that's why this question is being asked.
Every position, unless shortstop is that Andres Jimenez guy?
It's probably going to be Ahmed Rosario.
Rosario, that's right. I forgot we got him. I don't know. Even shortstop, I'm worried about. Didn't have to worry about that for 5 years. Now
we're re-signing Omar Vizquel. He still has it. Ben, how crucial is this signing for the Tribe lineup?
All right, I'm unmuted. All right, cool. I think it's pretty crucial. It's definitely going to just kind of steady the ship a little bit in the outfield and offensively as well. But I don't know how much. It's kind of like, the moves that we were talking about earlier to start off the show. I don't know if it really affects the Tribe getting into the playoffs at all. But it steadies the ship. That makes sense.
I like it. It is going to be like we talked about. It's nothing's guaranteed for anybody except for Jose Ramirez, I feel like, coming into this season. He's going to start probably 150 games, if not 162, just because they need him to. But, nothing's guaranteed. Jacob, your thoughts on the signing?
I like what you said earlier, Will, and you said there was a lot of question marks everywhere. Even this signing still just makes me think that there's a lot of question marks everywhere, too. Like, it's a good signing. It, like how Ben said, it helps the outfield out, and it does help offensively. But really, it's like saying, okay, Tribe fans, we got rid of Francisco Lindor. Now here's Eddie Rosario. Like, that's not going to help at all.
Got two Rosarios now, so now we have to wonder which one's batting.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, I don't really know if the Tribe's going to really compete this year because there's so many question marks. And Eddie Rosario is just not an over-the-top signing for me. It's a good signing, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't get me fired up if the Tribe's going to be a top 2 team now in the Central. I think they're third in the Central because I do think that they're still better than the Royals and the Tigers, obviously. But I think the White Sox and the Twins have passed them up now this offseason. So I just think for the Tribe, they're going to be a mediocre team this year at times. They might have some runs and they might have some slumps, but this just doesn't put the Tribe over the top for me at all. It's a good signing, but it's not a great signing.
Yeah, and I agree with that. With Cleveland, lucky for them, they play in the AL Central because the Royals and Tigers are just so bad that even when you ship away your best player and a really good pitcher, you're still the third best team in your division. But I agree. I don't see the Tribe getting much higher than third place. They still do have a great coach. Terry Francona always finds a way to win. He'll probably still somehow find 81 wins with no lineup, but to say he's going to get 95 and win the AL Central, that's a stretch,
Here's looking at the future of this team. This past draft, they just got that Carson Tucker, the younger brother of Cole Tucker, who is supposed to be the next Francisco Lindor.
Good.
At shortstop. So you have to start the rebuild now in order to put together a good team when he is ready to just be consistent everyday shortstop in the majors. Now, is Terry Francona going to still be there when Tucker's ready to come up?
Sandy Alomar Jr.
Maybe, but every year he's in consideration for other managerial jobs. So if you can keep him happy and put it together a team that he wants to coach and manage, that's a huge question. But the rebuild is now. In order to put together a good team around Tucker, because he's your future.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out for the AL Central as a whole, just because the White Sox on the rise and the Twins still good. Last free agents we're going to talk about, I'll mention the other free agent signings, but the last one we're going to talk about, Jock Peterson signs a 1-year deal with the Cubs worth $7 million. So this spurs the question in my mind. Jacob, I'll start with you. Will he be a more productive replacement for Kyle Schwarber?
Oh, I really think so. I remember saying a couple months ago on this show that I thought Jock Peterson could really kind of be a superstar because I felt like he got really overlooked with the Dodgers because you're on such a stacked team that he's a great player, but he's got so many other great players right in front of him. So I just have this feeling right now. The Cubs, to me, they kind of confused me with this signing because they were selling a lot of guys. They got rid of Yu Darvish, and they were just getting rid of a lot of their pieces. And then they brought Jock in on a really team-friendly deal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that, in my opinion, he's a better home run hitter than Schwarber. He's healthier, obviously, because Schwarber seemed like he could never see the field. And I just feel like he has that superstar potential in him. I think that this is a low-risk, high-reward signing here for the Cubs just because of literally how much money they're giving him. I just cannot believe that they got him for that much money. And then just his potential is just enormous. And I think that the Cubs could potentially have a superstar here on their hands.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I thought $7 million was highway robbery for the Cubs. Brendan, I know what you're probably thinking, leaves the Eagles head coaching job and now signs with the Cubs. Your thoughts on the signing, Brendan?
Hey, both Petersons moving this offseason.
Yeah.
Jacob, I totally agree. It's without question so much better than Kyle Schwarber. Heavy hitter, puts up bigger numbers than Schwarber has and will ever do. But you
better
talk
fielder
about
too.
He was yeah,
Schwarber's always slow.
Yeah, totally.
For an outfielder.
Definitely quicker. But Jacob, you said that he was overshadowed in LA. Look at the Cubs lineup. It's really no different. Rizzo, Bryant, Contreras, Baez, Hayward, Happ. I mean, it's another stacked lineup. He definitely helps them contend for that NL Central to try and win the division again. I mean, to answer the question, yeah, he's much better than Schwarber. He'll produce better than he did, but he's kind of in the same situation that he was with the Dodgers.
I agree with that to an extent. Depends on what version of these players you're getting. I mean, a lot of those players.
That's true.
A lot of those players peaked 16, 17.
On a decline, yeah.
But if you get all those players, I think Peterson also fits better with the Cubs roster because I think he could play every day. Where the Dodgers, you knew he wasn't going to play every day, but I think Peterson has an everyday role with the Cubs, and I mean, with him and Hayward in the corner outfields, they should be pretty decent there. But it depends on what version of these Cubs you're getting. If you're getting the Cubs that won the World Series 4 years ago and looked decent 2 years ago, if Rizzo and Bryant and all them play like that, and Contreras and Baez comes back, I mean, the Cubs, watch out. They might win the NL Central and go on a little run. Ben, your thoughts on Jock Peterson? Going to the Windy City.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it depends on what version of Jock Peterson you get. Because if you get the last couple years where he was hitting well above around the 250 range, that's pretty good. But last year he hit just 190. So if he bounces back and gets back to where he was from like 2017 to 2019, where he's hitting pretty darn near 250, give or take 5 points either way, that's a really good signing for the Cubs because they still have some stars like Anthony Rizzo. So they can compete for sure, but it just depends on what version of him that they get.
Yeah, and in his defense, that 60-game season is really, really hard to take any grain of salt because you got to realize a lot of players, even if they have a slow start, June's when you start kicking it into gear, and that's right when that 60-game would about be, is the end of May, early June. So to only have 2 months, if you're on a cold streak that lasts 2 months, you kind of get screwed by the shortened season. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the Cubs. Can he put them back on the map, help them get back to their winning ways? And in the NL Central, anything's possible. We talked about that earlier. The Brewers will have their streaks. The Cardinals will have their streaks. We'll get into the Cardinals. They added a key piece, so they could be dangerous. And then you're always going to have the Pirates at the bottom. The Reds are in the mix now. But with this signing, the Cubs are definitely in the mix for that Central Division. A couple other signings that took place that we're not really going to talk about. Brad Hand signs a 1-year deal with the Nationals. It's worth just under $11 million. Leaves the Indians after winning reliever of the year, 16 for 16 on saves, then blows the biggest save of the season in the postseason. And then the Twins, they add Andrelton Simmons on a 1-year deal worth $10.5 million as well, meaning Jorge Polanco is probably going to move over to second base and Luis Arias will be a reserve. And the Twins also re-sign Nelson Cruz, which that man's not aging at all, but a trade went down. A huge trade went down. So the Rockies, this is basically what happened. The Rockies said, you know what, we have one of the best players to ever play this position of third base. He's still in his prime, but we don't want him anymore. So we're going to ask the Cardinals if they want him. The Cardinals say, I don't know. So the Rockies then say, well, what if we give you him and $50 million? We'll just give you the money. Cardinals jump right on it, and that's what happened as the Cardinals get Arenado and $50 million for 4 players that I've never heard of and don't care to know. Brendan, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, well, it was definitely surprising. Real quick, by the way, I think every professional team needs to be doing these trades during working hours. This trade went down at like 2 a.m. Like, can they please do it from 9 to 5? Like, there should be a timeline.
Rocky's GM wife walks in. Who you talking to? Jake from the Cardinals. What's Jake from the Cardinals wearing?
Baseball pants.
Well, once he gets his $50 million, gold pants.
Yeah. Man. But this just goes to show you that just another example. that baseball is completely broken. They need a cap.
Yeah.
Why can the Rockies not be able to keep the face of their franchise? And this is another example, the Indians. Why should they not be able to keep Francisco Lindor? You take a look, we just got done talking about the Cubs. Their lineup has not changed in like 6 years.
I feel like 20.
The Yankees, they haven't changed in like 4 or 5 years. But you got these teams like Colorado and Cleveland. San Diego's going to run into the same issue that the Indians did and are in right now, losing everyone. But they weren't able to win it all. The Rockies, just a few years ago, they were in contention. But due to the cap, due to them being a small market city, and not being able to have, and spend money, they were never able to, really fully build that roster up and win with the best third baseman in the game. Now here you have St. Louis already, making the postseason every year, it seems like, already has a stacked lineup. Now they get the best third baseman in the game. And I don't know, they might be favorites to go to the NLCS, or at least, be a contender in the National League this year. Just go show you how broken baseball is. You don't have this problem with any other sport, any other team, small market team in basketball, football. So I don't like it. I feel bad for Colorado. They've always been like the brother to Cleveland, it seems like, in the NL. And this is a bad situation. It's a bad look for the game. Yeah,
the Cardinals robbing another NL West team that just can't afford, as they robbed Goldschmidt from the Diamondbacks a few years back. If you remember, now they take the franchise player from the Rockies. So 2 franchise players just snatched away from 2 small markets to join St. Louis.
They're the bully. They're a bully.
Yeah, St. Louis. I mean, if you think about it, St. Louis only has 2 sports, so they put all their money into those 2 sports, and their fans are loyal, but their owners are spending money. Ben, your thoughts on this trade?
The marijuana is legal over there in Colorado, and I'm pretty sure that's what their GM was smoking, because they just got robbed. I mean, you just gave up the face of your franchise of $50 million for 4 guys who probably won't pan out. Like, that just, like, even if you thought he was going to leave whenever his deal was up, you got to get more than that. I mean, come on. It's just, wow.
If you shop him 2 weeks earlier, you could have gotten Lindor.
Yeah. And now they're going to lose Trevor Story after this season, probably, because from what I've read, he was frustrated after that trade went down. So they probably just shot themselves in the foot. But like what Brendan said, I mean, this is a very good argument for a salary cap in baseball. Because there's no reason that a smaller market team like Colorado, like Denver, shouldn't be able to hold on to their franchise for longer. Yeah. And shouldn't be forced into bad deals like this.
Yeah. I mean, at least they still got Charlie Blackmon, right? That's all they got.
For now.
Jacob, your thoughts on this trade?
Well, Ben took my take a little bit, because the first 4 words that popped into my head when I saw this trade was bye-bye Trevor Story, because I think he's gone next for sure. If they gave the Cardinals $50 million, which is ridiculous, they're going to give whatever team $20 million, I guess, for Trevor Story now, too. I mean, the Rockies, I just feel like they just get screwed so much, and it is because of the salary cap. But I remember back when I first started watching baseball, like late 2000s, early 2010s, they had Troy Tulowitzki. They were always a really good team. Then they were forced to get rid of him because the Giants came up and they were winning World Series left and right. And I think that's the same thing here. The Dodgers came on right when this Rockies team came on. So really the Rockies were always contending. They were always right there to potentially make the playoffs. And then boom, here comes the Dodgers. And like how we all are in agreement here, they're such a small market team, it's not like they can go out and get any pieces. So yeah, you definitely need a salary cap there. The part of the trade that just blows my mind, like, I can see you just giving them up to to the Cardinals, but $50 million. I mean, I've never heard of anything that crazy in my life. It's literally, okay, we're going to hand you our franchise superstar, and here's $50 million as well. It's just craziness right there. The Cardinals, I think they're going to win the Central next year, and the Rockies are in store for a long, 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 painful rebuild.
Yeah. Plot twist, Trevor Story signs with the Cardinals on the $50 million they got from the Rockies. No, it's definitely going to be a long, painful rebuild for the Rockies, as it usually is for the small market teams. You have a small 2 to 3 year window, and if you don't get it done there, it's about 6 more years to get it back to that. So,
remember Rocktober 2007?
Yeah. Rockies,
Go
Red
to the World
Sox
Series and then get
swept
by the Red Sox.
Well, the Indians, they should have played the Indians.
Should have lost to the Indians, but that's the difference.
Hey, I love that outcome, Rockies in the World Series, though, not going to lie.
Yeah.
Love my Red Sox.
So, speaking of the Red Sox, Jacob, I'll let you start on this one since it probably hits home a little bit for you.
What a transition. Man, that was fantastic.
I love it.
I didn't even plan that either right there.
So, Dustin Pedroia announces his retirement from the MLB after 14 seasons with the Red Sox. What a career. 2007 Rookie of the Year, 2008 MVP, 4-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove, won a Silver Slugger, 2 times World Series champs with the Sox, had a career stat line of .299 average with 140 homers, 725 RBIs, over 1,800 hits, 138 stolen bases, and almost 52 wins above replacement for the career. Jacob, I'll start with you. Thoughts on his career, and is he a Hall of Famer?
Well, he's for sure a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I don't know if he's necessarily first ballot, but he might be second or third ballot, something like that. But he just had the greatest start to his career, really. Just came on and really just helped the Red Sox stay in contention and keep winning World Series. And really, too, I know like 4 All-Star appearances doesn't seem like that much, but it was just his impact in the Boston community and for the team as a whole. He's one of the most beloved figures in one of the most historical franchises in all of sports history. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see how you can't put him in the Hall of Fame because, like I said, 4 All-Star appearances, that's really not that much, but it was just his impact in the clubhouse. He always kept the culture going of winning. Even when he's been hurt these past 2 years, he's still been with the team at times, just providing that support and really just being the leader that he always was for those Red Sox. So I just don't see how you can't put him in the Hall of Fame. He to me is one of the best second basemen that's ever played for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, he's just that good. He just had that big of an impact because when I think of Boston sports figures in the past 15 years or so, I'd probably think of David Ortiz, Tom Brady, and Dustin Pedroia is probably third right there. So he's a for sure Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. One of the best second basemen, but I disagree with you saying Red Sox. I honestly think he's one of the best second basemen we've seen play the sport. He's not going to throw up the flashy home run or RBI numbers, but he's always going to bat close to that 300 average. He's always going to come up clutch. He had a very big clutch factor in his whole career, and then obviously his rookie season where he runs Rookie of the Year and is a big part in getting the Red Sox back to the World Series and winning it. Just all around, I mean, you look at it, 52 wins above replacement. That's a big number. I definitely think this guy will be a Hall of Famer, and I agree, maybe not first ballot, but he'll definitely be on there, like an Omar Vizquel type guy. Omar probably will get on next year, which is his 4th ballot, and I can see Dustin Pedroia going, 3 or 4 maybe. I mean, he has an MVP trophy. And I saw this video. It was funny that David Ortiz didn't even know his name. He thought his name. What do you think? Jake, you probably know. I can't think of what he thought it was. He's like.
I actually haven't watched the video. So
he was like.
I know. I've seen the video that you're talking about. It was
Pee Wee or something like that. He was like.
Pee Wee. I think it was Pee Wee. Yeah.
He was like, your name. What did he call you? And he's like, Dustin. Why? Well, that's my name. And he's like, I thought it was Pee Wee Pedroia. And Dustin's like, for 14 years they said coming up to the plate, Dustin Pedroia. And that's just a funny memory, and it was really cool to see that, So, kudos to the great career. Brendan, your thoughts on Pedroia's career, and is he in a Hall of Fame in your eyes?
Yeah, well, if we still have the same baseball writers who decide this thing, they'll probably find something to, bash him and something that they don't like about him, and he won't get in. But no, definitely a Hall of Famer. I'll put him on the first ballot. Just a tough, gritty. He was born a baseball player.
Yeah.
He was just one of those guys that you look at him, baseball player, so aggressive on the base paths. I mean, he probably didn't get a signal from the third base coach, and he was still going to go and steal second base. That's just kind of the player that he was. I just remember when things weren't going the Red Sox way. I think, the 2016 ALDS, just against the Indians, things weren't going their way. You could just see the anger and the passion coming from him, because that's just how much he cared about winning. He was angry in the dugout. He was angry on the field. And that is just what I love from a baseball player. Just the passion brewing out of him. Just he loves baseball so much. The stats speak for themselves. Just one of the best second basemen ever to play the game. You think of his name, you immediately think World Series with the Red Sox. Those Terry Francona years, when they were just in their prime, the dynasty that they had. Just a phenomenal player. I hated playing him. When he was on the other side, I hated him and I hated playing him. But so much respect, because he was just a role model for younger generations to say, hey, that's how you play baseball.
Yeah, scrappy is the word I would use to describe him. It's a shame. A lot of people forget how much he meant to that 2007 World Series team specifically. He gets outshadowed by the guys like David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Kevin Youkilis, who had great seasons as well. But Pedroia, there was a lot of big moments that he stepped up big for that team as a rookie, too, to do it in your first full season in the MLB. Just that season alone, in my book, put him in my Hall of Fame. Ben, your thoughts on Dustin Pedroia's career, and is he a Hall of Famer?
He's got numbers. He's got some awards. He's a guy who played, left it all on the field, which is amazing. That's how you're supposed to play the game, whether it's baseball, basketball, football. You play it, you leave it all in there. You play with passion. He did that, and he played it all with the same franchise, which is incredibly rare, especially in a sport like baseball, where it's so easy for stars and guys who are good to move around in their career at least a couple times. So that's pretty rare. That's very special. Really special. Definitely one of the best Boston athletes of the last 20, 30, 40 years, easily. And I think he will get in the Hall of Fame probably around year 5 or 6. We'll see if the writers decide they have anything to hold against him. I think we can have a conversation about changing the Hall of Fame process, because it seems to be kind of broken if you're not voting a single player in. There's something wrong there, but that's a conversation for a different night.
Sad to hear that the word broken is the theme of our baseball talk tonight, but there's a lot of things to think about if you're Manfred going forward with the MLB, especially with the Hall of Fame and the salary cap. Those are two of the biggest things you need to talk about. But yeah, I agree. Hall of Famer, just a fun guy to watch. It really makes you feel old seeing these guys retire. Like we talked about it a couple weeks ago with the NFL. You see Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers going out. Drew Brees most likely going out. You're just like, man, am I getting to that age where I'm going to have to tell my kids about these players? And Pedroia is one of those players you're going to have to tell your kids about, but he's going to be a fun guy to talk about when it's brought up. So kudos to him. Great career. Wish nothing but the best for him going forward, and hopefully in a few years we hear his name getting inducted into Cooperstown. But that will be all for MLB Talk as we'll move on to some basketball now. We'll start with college basketball as, again, we didn't have an episode last week. So this is our first in 2 weeks, so we're kind of going to just talk about the last 2 weeks, what we are looking forward to the week ahead. Gonzaga and Baylor, 2 weeks go by, they're still unbeaten. They're 1-2 still, as Villanova, Michigan, and Houston round out the top 5 in men's hoops. Houston on upset alert right now. Louisville remains unbeaten in women's, and they take the top spot with South Carolina, UConn, NC State, and UCLA following. Jacob, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the past 2 weeks and what games are catching your eye in the week ahead.
So these past 2 weeks have really shown me still that Gonzaga, to me, is still the clear-cut best team in the nation. I just don't see many weaknesses with them. I love Jalen Suggs so much. I just think they're going to make a very deep tournament run. Baylor is strong, too. I really like them, but I feel like they're going to have a lot of competition in the Big 12 tournament, particularly with Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma came really out of nowhere, kind of, and they really took out a bunch of top 10 teams in the past 2 weeks. So they're on the rise. I just love Texas with Greg Brown and Andrew Jones and Kai Jones. I just love those guys. I think that they can really compete with Baylor come tournament time. I really think that Texas, to me, is still the favorite in my eyes to win the Big 12, just because I don't see Baylor going undefeated the whole time. I think that they're going to have a slip up here coming up. So I just think Texas is ultimately going to win the Big 12 this year. And also a shout out to Drake of the Missouri Valley Conference, 16-0 right now, top 25. And the Missouri Valley Conference is actually a really good basketball conference because Wichita State used to play in there, and they used to have all those great tournament runs. Illinois State's pretty good in there sometimes. Missouri State was good in there for a while. So really, that's a good conference. So shout out to Drake for being undefeated there. But my games that I'm looking forward to this week, the big one, Ohio State and Iowa, that is just going to be a huge matchup because, in my opinion, Ohio State has overachieved than what I thought they were going to be this year. Don't get me wrong. I thought they were going to be a really good team, but I did not see them being ranked in the top 10 this late in the season right now. And Iowa, to me, they've had their ups and downs, and I want to see Luka Garza get this squad back on track because I really do believe in Iowa still as a potential Final Four team. So I'm interested to see how both teams play there. I'm very interested in seeing Alabama and Missouri play this week as well. I love how Alabama plays. I love John Petty and Herbert Jones. I think that they're going to ultimately lead the Crimson Tide to the victory, and I think they have a great shot at winning the SEC this year. And then just for pure NBA draft purposes, I'm looking forward to watching Oklahoma State and Texas just because Cade Cunningham, he's the number one prospect right now going into the NBA draft. He plays a lot like Russell Westbrook. He can get you a triple-double whenever he wants. He's an incredible athlete, and Texas has the prospects in Greg Brown, Kai Jones, and Andrew Jones. So really a lot of good NBA talent there. So that's going to be a fun game to watch if you're an NBA fan. And also, just wanted to give a quick shout-out to those Mount Union Purple Raiders men's basketball team right now, ranked number 2 in the nation. We'll keep it up, hopefully. Has 3 great wins to start out the season. And, yeah, I'm just excited about college basketball in general right now.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, the last 2 weeks, Oklahoma's definitely the team to talk about. 3 wins against top 10 teams, and now they find themselves in the top 10 at number 9. So definitely quite the run there on. Brendan, your thoughts on the last 2 weeks and what's catching your eye in the week ahead?
Yeah, the Alabama-Oklahoma story is pretty interesting. 2 football schools coming out and just barreling through their respective conferences. I think up until last Saturday, Alabama was on a 10-game win streak until they lost to Oklahoma. But still, Alabama, better than Kentucky right now, better than Florida. They're the number 1 SEC team, which I guess we should have seen coming for when Colin Sexton was there. But they're really strong right now. Hey, Trae Young went to Oklahoma. So those 2 schools definitely producing some stud talent going into the NBA, and they're definitely competing right now. Jacob, to mention your Texas scenario, them winning the Big 12, I'm not so sure about that because they did just lose to Baylor yesterday. They did just lose to Oklahoma the other day. So if you can't beat the top 2 teams in that conference, how are you supposed to win the conference tournament? Yeah, they're a good story. The Longhorns playing well. I guess they're a basketball school now because they can't win in football. But
hey, they just got Sark.
Not so sure. No. I'm not so sure about this Texas basketball team. I'm pumping the brakes just a little bit on them for right now. Oklahoma, Alabama. I think they just jumped from 24-9, so that was impressive. They do have a big one coming up. I think they do play Baylor coming up this coming week. So. Big 12 and SEC. Every conference is pretty special right now. Also, if we're giving shout-outs, Cleveland State, baby. 12-5, atop the Horizon League. They're back. I remember when they made the Sweet 16 in like 2008 or 2009 or something like that. But the Vikings, how about it? Cleveland basketball on top of the world.
There you go. Ben, your thoughts on the last 2 weeks and what's catching your eye in the week ahead in some college hoops?
I don't think anything really jumped out to me in the last 2 weeks, but when I look ahead the next week, it's got to be Hawkeyes and Buckeyes in Iowa City. That's got to be your game of the week, probably the game of the next 2 weeks. Iowa's currently favored by 5 points. That should be a game that comes down to that last minute or two, probably the last minute It may even be a one-possession game when it's all said and done. But that should be a phenomenal game. You got an Ohio State team with Chris Holtmann, who's, in my opinion, always Ohio State. He's won way more than he should have when you consider what he's had. And then you've got on the other side, you got Iowa. They got Luka Garza. But they've also got some other good players out there. Connor McCaffrey and a couple other guys out there that can play to surround him. So that should be a phenomenal game. And Iowa might be a Final Four team. But if Ohio State wins, you got to start the buses for the Final Four hype for the Buckeyes, I think. But you look around. Gonzaga, I agree with Jacob's got to be the number one team right now. That's a Final Four team. And then Baylor's probably in there too. And then probably Nova. And it's a battle for that fourth spot. But Iowa's got to be real close in that conversation. Should be a phenomenal game. I'm excited. Yeah, and how about Cleveland State? 12-0 in league play? Something like that? First time in forever?
Ben,
that's a pretty good accomplishment.
You picked the top 4 teams.
This is their best record ever in the Horizon League.
Ben, you picked the top 4 teams as the Final Four team. That's like a sin. You can't pick 1, 2, 3, 4 to be the Final Four. That's a bracket. That's a bracket no. 12. You got to have a 12 seed in there now.
You want to put money on that?
No, they're all 4 playing great basketball, so you're probably right, but we'll see.
So I think the top 3 are definitely going to be in there. Okay. I think that fourth one, I think you could pick another team in there.
I think Nova's the one that could get knocked off of the 4.
Maybe.
I'd put Iowa above Nova, in my opinion. But we'll see. Bracketology, we'll all fill out a bracket. We'll get to this year. Last year it got canceled, so we'll fill out a bracket. I'll post them on our sports Twitter at WRMU_sports, and we'll see who wins RSM Sports bracketology. As we'll have some fun with it. We're not going to wager anything.
Unfortunately, we'll be able to do that in D3 though.
But yeah. But
that's
yeah.
That officially is gone.
Just conference only. But no, I agree with all the takes. The last 2 weeks is great for Oklahoma. Their biggest one's next week. Oklahoma, they host Baylor. Can they be Baylor's first loss, or does Baylor stay unbeaten? That's the big one. And then one that's kind of getting overlooked just because neither of these teams are ranked, which I can't remember the last time these 2 teams played, and at least one of them weren't ranked. But Duke, North Carolina, that will also be next week. Duke playing a little better. They're up to 7-6. North Carolina 11-6. So still both winning records. A lot of seeding implications on the line as far as the ACC tournament goes. And nonetheless, it's Duke, North Carolina. It's the rivalry. So it's gonna be a good game. And that's one you got to watch, even though neither of them are ranked. But that's it for college. So now we'll go to the pros. The last 2 weeks, a lot of shifting in the standings going on. So we'll take a look at the playoff pictures right now. We'll talk about what we could see changing as every team but 4 teams have played at least 20 games. So just about everybody's getting to that 1/3 point in the season. Just about 50 games left. So still a lot of basketball. So this is our very early take on these playoff pictures because there's still a lot of basketball. But we'll look at the Eastern Conference first. Sixers on top at 15-6. Nets 2 games behind at 14-9. Bucks 2.5 back at 12-8. Celtics 3 back at 11-8. Pacers 3 back at 12-9. Hawks 4.5 back at 10-10. Cavs 5 back at 10-11. And the Hornets, the 8th seed at 10-11, also 5 back. Jacob, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this playoff picture and what changes do you see over the next 50 games? Who do you see falling out? Who do you see coming in? Or do you think this could be the 8 teams we see come the playoffs?
Well, the top 5, I think that's the 5 best teams in the Eastern Conference this year right now. I'm saying Philly, at this point, I would keep them at number 1 just because Joel Embiid's playing out of his mind. Ben Simmons is having a better year. Doc Rivers is always just a great coach. So I think that they're going to be a regular season team. By no means am I putting them in the NBA Finals yet because I personally don't think that they'll make the Finals this year. But I think that they're going to be a team like the Hawks were a couple of years ago when they got when they were the best team in the Eastern Conference, but they didn't make it to the Finals. I think that that's probably what the Sixers are right now, at least. I think that the Bucks and the Nets are ultimately going to flip-flop, and that's just because I expect the Bucks to gel a lot better just because there's so many new pieces to that team. Yeah. And over the course of 50 more games, they're definitely going to get more chemistry built. And I just don't believe in Brooklyn's defense, personally. Brooklyn's on pace to being one of the best offensive teams in NBA history, but also the worst defensive team in NBA history. So that's not going to get you a 2 seed in my mind, especially if you got Giannis creeping up on you like that. So I think the Nets have enough talent where they'll stay at 3. I feel confident in Boston at 4 and Indiana at 5. But the 6 to 8, I would say 6 right now. This team is very bad. Don't get me wrong right now, but the Miami Heat have not been healthy at all this season. And we talked about the layover, too, from the bubble. I think they were experiencing that a lot as well, too. But Jimmy Butler's been in and out of the lineup. Tyler Hero's been in and out of the lineup. Bam Adebayo can't carry the load on his shoulders all the way. I think they're ultimately going to make a run here in the next couple weeks, and they'll be 6 because they've lost a lot of close games. And I can't help but just think that that's because they just don't have their regular team in there. So I think they're going to start to win more games. They'll be 6. Right now, I have the Cavs at 7, and that's just because this team plays great defense. I believe in Colin Sexton. I believe in whoever the center is. Andre Drummond, if he's still there, it's going to be fine. But Jared Allen, I think Jared Allen fits the team better, but Andre Drummond's not going to kill him. I feel like that their defense is going to keep them in the playoffs in the end. And then 8, I've been very critical of this team all year. But because of the emergence of Chris Boucher, and he's really acting like the center that the Raptors, I felt, lacked coming into this season, I think Toronto sneaks in as the 8 seed right now. They've been hot the past couple of weeks. They've been playing a lot better. So I think they'll be 8. And then on the outside looking in is the Hornets and the Hawks. I just think that I can't see Trae Young being consistent enough right now, and the pieces around him just haven't been gelling as well, and they haven't been playing as good as we all expected them to. And the Hornets, I just think that they're too young right now, too, because I feel like their guard situation is perfect. They have way too many good guards on that team in Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, LaMelo Ball, but they do not have any front court help at all, and I think that's going to hurt them in the long run. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these next 50 games go.
Definitely is. Ben, your thoughts on the playoff picture now, and does it hold?
Looking at the Eastern Conference right now, I think Philly should have a pretty good chance of holding on, having that 1 seed because of how bad defensively Brooklyn's been since they acquired Harden and Harden. And I got Kyrie back. I mean, it's pretty incredible. They've been like top of the line offense, but if you look at the stats, they're like bottom of the cellar when it comes to defense. So I think that's going to hurt them in the regular season. They may even fall back as far as 3, possibly 4. We'll see, but they definitely stay in that top 4 for sure. I think the Bucks either hold or they drop up or go down, just kind of depending on where the Nets go. I think that more so determines where they're going to go because I think they're going to do what they're supposed to do. Boston's going to probably stay there, maybe fall to 5 at worst. Brad Stevens is probably the best coach in the league by a mile, so they've got stars like Jason Tatum, so they're going to stay there in the middle of the playoff pack. The Hawks, Cavs, Hornets, there could be some movement. I think the Cavs are going to stay in the bottom 3 here, and they're going to get into the playoffs because of how hard they play defensively, along with the emergence of Colin Sexton as a primary scorer. I think the Hornets could finish 9th, be that first team looking in potentially. And then the Hawks, I think the Hawks could slide anywhere around there or even be the first or second team out. Over in the West, I think the Jazz are going to stay up top. I think the Clippers and Lakers are going to be competitive, be in that top 3. The Lakers might be able to finish higher than the Clippers, though. I think at some point they're going to hit a stride where LeBron just kind of locks in, AD locks in, and they go on a run and just get a little bit of distance, just enough to get some higher seeding. I think the Nuggets probably going to hold it 4. We'll see what the Suns do because Chris Paul wins everywhere he goes. He's doing it again. He did it last year in OKC. He's probably going to keep him in the middle of that playoff pack there. And then Houston, I'm still going to take Houston to miss the playoffs here. I think they're going to drop out. And I think Portland and Memphis are going to somehow hang on and get in there.
All right. Brendan, your thoughts?
So with the East, Brooklyn is playing too hot right now that I can't see them not getting that number 1 seed. Philadelphia, yes, Joel Embiid was having an MVP season, but the rest of that crew, I feel like they're just going to drop off and have a drop off at some point. and Brooklyn's going to sneak past them. It's going to be a close race, but the Nets are going to the finals. It's like finals are bust for them this year. The rest of that conference, though, pretty fascinating. Boston's looking really good. So is Milwaukee. I agree with Jacob that I don't see Atlanta holding on and getting into the playoffs this year. I do think Toronto finds a way. I do think Miami, like you said, there's some pieces that have been missing. I think Miami does find a way to get back to playing the style of basketball that they did in the bubble. That leads me talking about Cleveland. And yes, they're a totally different team than what we've seen in the past couple of years. But there are just a few pieces that I don't trust. One of them being Andre Drummond. The amount of steals that he throws is pretty annoying. I don't really trust that guy anymore. Kevin Love is supposed to come back. Who knows if that's going to hurt this chemistry of the team? I haven't seen a lot out of Isaac Okoro. There hasn't been a game that he's taken over. Colin Sexton is just the only guy on the team I feel like that is carrying the load for the Cavs and keeping them in contention right now. That's not going to last. So they fall off, leaving maybe Atlanta. They grab that eight seed, or maybe the Knicks are actually playing well, so they might grab an 8 seed. But it's just a weird conference, and it's gonna shake up a lot over the next few months here.
Yeah, especially that back end. I agree. 76ers, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Pacers, they're all in. That's the top 5, like Jacob said. The positioning may change. I could see the Nets taking the top spot, Bucks maybe moving up a spot, so on and so forth. But 6, 7, 8 is where it gets interesting. I see the Cavs holding on, and I agree with Jacob. I see the Raptors sneaking in there. Now, the Hornets are the team I have falling out for sure. The Hawks only fall out I had the exact same take as Jacob. The Hawks only fall out if the Heat come together, if they can get healthy. But if the Heat don't get healthy, I see the Hawks getting that final spot. So Raptors, Cavs, Hawks rounding up the Eastern Conference for me. Also, breaking news, Colton Wong signs with the Brewers. So the shortstop position in St. Louis just opened up for Trevor Story if he does want to sign. We were talking about that earlier. So big news in baseball again. So now the Western Conference, Ben already touched on it, but we'll let Brendan and Jacob and I will take our picks. Jazz on top, 16-5. Clippers a game behind at 16-6. Lakers in third, game behind at 16-6. Nuggets 3.5 back at 12-8. Suns 4 back at 11-8. Grizzlies 4.5 back at 9-7. Blazers 4.5 back at 11-9. And the Houston Rockets rounding out the Western Conference right now at 10-9, 5 games behind them. Before we started with this one, Brendan, I'll start with you. But before we start, this Western Conference, man, there's so many teams looking in from the outside right now that I'm like, they're a playoff team. Your thoughts, Brendan, on the Western Conference? What changes happen?
Houston doesn't last. Golden State definitely gets in. Those top 4 teams, man, I see the Lakers grabbing the 1 spot. LeBron is not going to let the Lakers not get the 1 seed. I can tell you that right now. They're going to get the 1 seed. I'll go with Houston. Utah will get the number 2 seed. And then the Clippers drop down to number 3. I think Denver holds on to that 4 spot. Memphis and Portland playing really well right now. I think Memphis might jump up to number 5. Phoenix will be number 6. But yeah, you said there's a few teams in here. Does Sacramento make a run to get the 8th seed? Where does San Antonio fit in to this puzzle? It's
Dallas. That's
like
who I was thinking. Dallas is who I was thinking. They're
Dallas.
They're the playoff team that I'm like, where do they? Yeah, Luka and
They're
Porzingis.
struggling so much right now, dude. They can't grab a win to save their lives.
But it's gonna come together.
Dallas is not. They're gonna come together. Okay.
In the East, they're
the same way Miami is going
in
to.
the Eastern Conference, Brendan. They're 13-8, not 8-13.
No, they're. You can't play that game, Will. They're 8-13, and they just cannot figure out a way to win. It's frustrating the heck out of Nikola Jokic. So,
they come out, shellac the Clippers early in the season, and then just now, there's nothing. It's so disappointing. Because I love Luka. I do.
Luka Doncic, damn.
I do.
That's what I meant.
What'd you say? I didn't even hear what you said. You cut out.
No, yeah, they're really frustrating Luka Doncic right now.
Oh. I thought you said something else. Jacob, your thoughts on the Western Conference?
Yeah, so Western Conference is really tough this year. I agree with Brendan. I think the Lakers are ultimately going to get the top seed just because LeBron's just going to will them up there. But the Jazz are going to be right on their coattails the whole time, I think. I think they're definitely a 2 seed this year. I love what I'm seeing from them. They just play a great team-style basketball because, in my opinion, the Clippers have more talent than the Jazz. It's just the Jazz play better as a unit than the Clippers do. So the Clippers are going to be that 3 seed. The Nuggets might make a run at a top 3 because they're really starting to hit their stride right now. But I honestly think that they're going to stay at 4 right there just because the cold start in the season is ultimately going to hurt them a little bit in seeding-wise. The 5 seed, I think it's ultimately going to be Portland, and that's just because C.J. McCollum is hurt right now, and C.J. McCollum was basically having a career year before he got hurt this year. So when he comes back, I expect the Trailblazers to pick it up right where they left off with C.J. there, and they're going to be the 5 seed. The 6 through 8, that's really hard for me to pick right now, but I'm going to say 6 is Phoenix, just because Chris Paul, he's just a winner. Like, he knows how to win. Devin Booker's playing great. The rest of those complementary pieces like DeAndre Ayton and Jay Crowder, they're all playing good there for the Suns too. So I think they'll stay at 6. I think Steph wills the Warriors in as the 7 seed right now because they really don't have that bad of a roster, and I'm honestly expecting them to make a move at some point this season. There's been talks about a Kelly Oubre for Lonzo Ball swap, which I don't know how much that would work, but I definitely think they should probably swap Kelly Oubre out for somebody. And then I think they're definitely a 7 seed right there. Then the 8 seed. Will, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's frustrating me so much with the Mavericks because, oh my gosh, I want to put them in so bad. But it's not Luka's fault. I think it could be Kristaps Porzingis is not healthy enough. He's not reliable enough to be the second option for him. So I think if the Mavericks are ultimately going to be a 9 seed, Grizzlies are going to stay at 8 because what I keep thinking too, the Grizzlies don't even have Jaren Jackson right now, and he's going to come back from injury at some point. So I think that they'll stay at the 8 seed. But the Mavericks, they're definitely going to hit their stride at some point when you have a top 3 player in the world like you do in Luka Doncic, because I honestly think it's LeBron, Giannis, and Luka. Those are the top 3 guys in the world at this point. So in that order too.
Hot take.
I'm going to say, Luka is just out of this world to me. So I think he's already up there with those 2. But he's going to help them. He's going to possibly get them in the playoffs, but right now they're 9. San Antonio might make a push. Houston's not going to make the playoffs because I still think that they might trade Victor Oladipo at some point if they can get first-round picks out of him. And PJ Tucker, I think he's going to be traded too. So they're going to fall off a little bit. But yeah, really want to see the Mavericks make a push. Maybe go out and get a 3rd star like Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, something like that. But if they don't do that, they're going to be out of the playoffs, unfortunately.
My top 3 would probably be Sexton, Garland, and Dellavedova, but no.
Man, that was the hottest take I've ever heard.
Hot take, though. I like it, though. I can see where he's coming from. It's not unreasonable. It's not like he's saying Kyrie's the 3rd best player in the world.
It's not crazy, but he's definitely top 10, but I think 3 is a little too high.
I know one person in this world.
Kevin Durant might replace him there for me. He's probably 4. It's just KD was hurt last year, and Luka really did emerge last year. Yeah. So right now, Luka's just at the slight edge over KD for me.
So you're saying LeBron, who, and Luka?
Giannis.
LeBron, Giannis, because Giannis has been the most dominant guy in the past 2 years. except for the playoffs. Not in the playoffs. Regular season-wise, he's been the most dominant. And then I'm going to put Luka there. And then probably KD at 4.
I know one person in this world who'd probably just banish Jacob for saying that, and that's Alex Arbogast. For having LeBron as your 1 and KD not in your top 3, he'd probably just end you there, but not Union grad. Loves himself some Kevin Durant. So, Western Conference playoff picture for me, I think Dallas ends up coming back and taking the 1 seed, actually. No. I got Lakers 1, Clippers 2, Jazz fall to 3, Denver 4. Denver Jazz are going to be 3-4. I think they could interchange. I just think with Jokic, Denver's going to stay in that conversation for top 4, and then the Jazz just playing really well. 5, I agree. It's either going to be Phoenix or Portland. I have Portland moving up the ranks as soon as they get CJ back, but Phoenix stay there. So 5, 6, I have Phoenix, Portland in any particular order. And then 7, 8, it's going to be Golden State's one of them. And that last spot's going to be Memphis, or if Dallas can come together, if Porzingis can get healthy, I think Dallas can make a little bit of a run. Because when they are healthy and playing very good basketball, they're one of the best teams in basketball, in my opinion. So a run isn't out of this world for them, especially when you have a leader like Luka, who, in my opinion, is a top 5 player right now. You could have him anywhere. I respect the crap out of your take at him at 3rd. So they're more than they have enough firepower to make that run and get into the playoffs. But I'm going to say it's either going to be them or Memphis. And that's going to be it for my Western Conference, looking at it with 50 games left. Again, injuries could derail everything we just said. There's so much basketball left. As NCAA, we have a month left in NCAA until we get in the playoffs. But in the NBA, there's still a lot of basketball remaining. But that will do it for basketball. Now we'll jump over to the NFL as the NFL heads into their final week of the 2020-21 season. And before we get into the Super Bowl, there's already a big trade. The offseason's already started. Obviously, the head coaching carousel, that was the big talks of the last couple of episodes. But now a trade goes down. We're going to start seeing more of these as we get into the draft. And we'll do a mock draft here as well on RaiderZone. That's going to be a podcast that we dedicate completely to the NFL, no other sport. And it's just going to be us talking about the draft. That'll be sometime in April. But the Lions get Jared Goff, this year's 3rd-round pick, a 2022 first-rounder, and a 2023 first-rounder, all for Matthew Stafford. Brendan, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this trade, and what do these quarterback swaps mean for these two teams in 2021? Where do you see these teams going with these two guys under center?
Well, for me, this trade was all about matching up the right quarterback with the right head coach. And Sean McVay, LA and kind of initiated this trade with Detroit. So they're obviously assuming and hoping that Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford are the right fit for each other. Wasn't working with Goff and McVay this whole season. There was, talks of them not being on the same page. They obviously did not perform well in the Super Bowl when they lost to New England. So here you have a real talented head coach, a coach that knows what he's talking about, can get a team to a Super Bowl, and then a quarterback that has just been, yearning for the right team together, the right head coach. Stafford's gone through like 6 head coaches in his, 5 actually, in his time in Detroit. None of them worked out. Schwartz wasn't the right guy. Caldwell wasn't the right guy. Patricia, none of them could get on the same page with Stafford and take him to the next level. You have a really young head coach here in Sean McVay that is going to, Matthew Stafford, it's not like he has much time left in the league. So McVay is going to take Stafford to the level where he should have been a long time ago and get him to the playoffs finally. Jared Goff, however, now going to Detroit with Dan Campbell, that is a huge question mark. I do not know what Jared Goff is going to look like now. I'm worried about the future of his career. This could be a downhill for him. I mean, unless Dan Campbell can figure out a way to put together a winner in Detroit with Jared Goff as your quarterback, because Jared Goff is definitely a system quarterback, as is every quarterback. But I'm real worried about Goff and the Lions. But Stafford with the Rams and McVay, that is a huge storyline going into next year. Can Stafford get to the playoffs with the Rams? That is a huge question mark and something I'm really intrigued about next year.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. The Rams specifically, they're going to be a really fun team. Ben, your thoughts on this trade?
I think the Rams may very well have just punched our ticket to a Super Bowl in the next year or two. Because Matt Stafford can throw the ball. I mean, he's a player. It's not his fault that Detroit's just been inept for his entire career. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs since 2014. The year Ndamukong Suh decided to step on someone, like week 17, and almost get suspended.
Forgot that guy played for the Lions.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But I love this move for the Rams. You get rid of some draft picks, which, to be honest, if you're a playoff team, now in the NFL it's different than like the NBA, where position really matters, because you can get guys late in the first round. But how many teams actually hit on these draft picks? It's so much smarter just to move draft picks for established players that you know what you're going to get 100% than to gamble on some unknown player from, Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson who might not work out at the next level. So I think that's really smart. For Jared Goff, you got to feel sorry for him, like Brendan said, because who knows if Motor City Dan Campbell's going to get it figured out. I mean, that man was talking about biting off kneecaps. It was a pretty good first speech, pretty good internet speech. But we'll see if he can actually deliver. But, yeah, it's tough sledding coming up for Jared Goff. But for Matt Stafford, I feel great for him. He's finally going to get in a good situation.
I agree. I'll talk about it after Jacob's take, but yeah, I agree. Jacob, your thoughts on this trade?
Well, before I even get on my take, I thought I'd let you guys know, just got an update on my phone. Eastern Carolina did pull off the upset on Houston. So down goes number 5 right there. But anyway, I kind of see it the opposite way as you guys. I mean, I think it's a great move for the Rams to get Matthew Stafford. But I also look at it like this. I don't know if it necessarily means that the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl or if they're even going to win the division, because they're in a really good division.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any division with Russell Wilson in there, I'm going to still think that the Seahawks have a great shot at winning it. The Cardinals are on the up and they're rising. They can potentially be contenders in that division. And everyone seems to forget that the San Francisco 49ers made the Super Bowl last year, and this year they were just decimated with injuries. So if they can get the right quarterback in there, because I don't really think Jimmy G is the right quarterback for them, but if they go out and get another quarterback, and they have a great defense too, I might even put the 49ers in ahead of the Rams. Don't get me wrong. Rams are going to make the playoffs next year, and Matthew Stafford finally gets to make the playoffs. But I look at the Lions, and I say that they might win this deal, and that's only because I think that the fact that they get 2 first-round picks out of it, I would have never thought that Matthew Stafford would have gotten 2 first-round picks for him. Like, that just makes me think that any team trading for Deshaun Watson now, the Texans are going to say, okay, Matthew Stafford got 2 first-round picks, give me like 4 or 5 first-round picks here. Because I just never would have expected 2 first-round picks that the Lions got. And honestly, I get the whole concern with Jared Goff, but maybe a new setting would be good for him. Because really the new GM of the Lions, he has a connection with Jared Goff. He's the guy that ended up drafting him into LA. So he has a lot of confidence in him. So maybe he gives Jared Goff some pieces through the drafts, something like that. And maybe Jared Goff can revive his career, because he really did have a great start to his career and he's had a bad last couple seasons. So maybe Detroit will be good for him. But I don't think either team really lost here in this situation. The Rams are going to continue to go back into the playoffs. The Lions really start their rebuild with getting some good picks there. And who knows? Maybe Jared Goff will revive his career in Detroit.
Yeah, that's a good point made with Houston. You think about who's going to get Deshaun Watson. this probably makes the Jets the front runners now, since they do have 2 first-round picks this year that they could offer. So to say, hey, we can give you 2nd and 23rd, we can even tell you what pick they are. That probably helps the Jets there. But I feel it for Matthew Stafford to finally get out of Detroit. I mean, a guy who you have a once-in-a-lifetime wide receiver, once-in-a-generation wide receiver, retires early. You have 72 coaches in a 10-year career. And it's just, it's what would happen. It's what would have happened to Baker Mayfield if they didn't hit on Stefanski this year. And hopefully, knocking on wood, Stefanski's the guy for years to come, not just a one-year wonder. But I think Ben's not out of the nut house for saying Stafford's Super Bowl bound in a year or two. I think the Rams, a team that played very well in a tough NFC West, even beat the Seahawks in the playoffs, and with a healthy Jared Goff, they probably would have competed more with the Packers. But you talk Matthew Stafford now, they're definitely competing with the Packers, because I think Matthew Stafford's been just a decent team away from being one of the best quarterbacks to ever play this game, but he's been so unfortunate that he's on the Lions. Now, again, anything can happen. So, yes, the Rams have that opportunity, but like Jacob said, there's reason to think otherwise, just because you do have the Seahawks, Cardinals, and 49ers. That's a tough 6 games you've got to play. And if you lose all 6 of those, I mean, 10-6 can still get you in, but what are the odds you win out the rest of the game? So you always got to think that your division games are very important in the NFC West. And there was this take I saw. Is the NFC West and the AFC North going to be the Super Bowl producers for the years to come? Because you look at the AFC North, you got the Browns, Ravens, Steelers still somewhat good. Quarterback's question mark for them now. And then Cincinnati on the rise with Joe Burrow and a 5th overall pick. It could be NFC West, AFC North. You're always going to have the Chiefs, though. So as long as they have the guy that's playing under center this Sunday, they're always going to be there. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I hope for Stafford that the Rams can do something. You got to think the Rams were in the Super Bowl, 2 years ago? So it's not impossible. It's going to be interesting to see if Stafford can do it. And like Brendan said, you don't know how many years are left, so hopefully he can get one playoff run before it's all done, because he has had a great career, and you would love to see it not go unnoticed. So we didn't get a chance to talk about the games last week. We're not really going to talk about them, but the Buccaneers obviously take down the Packers 31-26. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought this. It looked like both teams were trying to lose that game, but the Packers just did a little better. It was a terrible game. Chiefs take down the Bills 38-24. The Chiefs own this whole game. Got really chippy there at the end. A lot of unsportsmanlike conducts called there at the end of the game, as it's just when you go 13-3, you get to the AFC Championship game for the first time since 1994 or 95 or whatever it was, and it just doesn't end how you want. It's going to get chippy. But nonetheless, Buccaneers-Chiefs, it's on the slate for this Sunday at 6:30. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs look to repeat as champions as they take on the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, as Tampa Bay gets to host the Super Bowl. How lucky is that? They'll be led by Tom Brady, who looks to add a 2nd Lombardi trophy to Tampa Bay's case, but add a 7th ring to his trophy case. Mahomes 1-0 in Super Bowls. Tom Brady 6-3 in his 9 Super Bowls. Brendan, I'll start with you. Who is winning Super Bowl 55? What's the final score? Who's the MVP?
All right, let's get into it. I'm sure this is going to be a fun conversation here. So my gut feeling, you look on paper, like, I look at this matchup, I don't know how you don't take Pat Mahomes, who was just in this, run. He's playing out of his mind. We haven't seen a quarterback like this forever in the history of the game. Yes, they do lose a little bit of their offensive line. Their O-line is kind of depleted. But just the way that he came back after getting knocked out in the Browns game, then comes back in the Bills game, just goes on a tear. It's like he didn't miss a beat. So he's just gonna go. He's gonna ball out this coming Sunday. There's no formula. Tampa Bay's defense is one of the best defenses in the league. That's what kind of helped get them to the Super Bowl. I don't see how they stop the Chiefs in this offense. That being said, looking at the potential storyline for after this game, how can you not see Tom Brady win 7th Super Bowl? You know, this is where like you take a look at the GOAT conversation, because these two quarterbacks are now in the GOAT conversation. You know, we now have LeBron against Jordan in the NFL. It's going to be Mahomes against Brady. Can Mahomes get to where get to where Tom Brady's at? So this is kind of where I look at where LeBron James was back in 2007. You know, they hold losing that 2007 finals to the Spurs against LeBron James. And when Pat Mahomes loses this Super Bowl, they're going to hold this against Mahomes, that he'll never be able to get to the GOAT status like Tom Brady is. You know, after this, when Brady retires, Mahomes can go on and win 4 or 5 Super Bowls, but they'll always hold this one against him so that he can't be, you know, the greatest of all time. This is going to be a really good Super Bowl. I think this is like the one that we all wanted. Obviously, Tony Romo predicted it back in Week 12. This is probably going to be one of the best Super Bowl matchups of all time. You know, the young blood, future of the league against Father Time, and already the GOAT. I don't want Tom Brady to win the Super Bowl, but I just don't see how he loses this game. I think I think this might come down to like the final 2 minutes. It's one of those games where the Buccaneers are up by like 5 points. Pat Mahomes has to go on a 2-minute drive, but can't get the job done. So I think the Buccaneers win it in a real close one.
Who's your MVP, Tom Brady?
I don't know how you can't pick Tom Brady if the Buccaneers win. So, yep.
All right.
Also, it's not just the 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time going up against each other. It's the 2 greatest tight ends of all time. Don't forget that. Gronk against Kelsey.
Tony Gonzalez.
All right, whatever.
There's an argument. Ben, your take on Super Bowl 55. Who's winning? What's the score? And who wins the most valuable Nickelodeon trophy?
Well, the most valuable Nickelodeon is obviously Mitchell Trubisky, the pride of Mentor, Ohio.
There you go.
And soon to be unemployed in the NFL.
Oh.
Or a backup. We'll see. Hey, I mean, the fan-controlled football league's starting up, so you could join Johnny Football over there.
Role models. Johnny Football is my role model. Party hard, work later. Super Bowl 55.
Oh, man. Well, I think this is going to be a close game. I mean, I don't think you can ever count Tom Brady out in big games. And obviously the Chiefs have a bunch of firepower offensively. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers by like a field goal, maybe less. I think there's going to be a last possession, 1-2 minute drive to try and win the game from either side. But I'll take the Buccaneers narrowly. Tom Brady will probably win Super Bowl MVP.
You're not going to take Ryan Suckup when he hits the game winner?
Yeah. You know what? For the brand, I'll take it. I'll take the kicker. For the brand, baby.
If Buccaneers win by 3 and Ryan Suckup's the MVP, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump into Lake Erie. I'll jump into the Silver Park Lake. Jacob, Super Bowl 55. Who's winning? What's the score? And who is your MVP?
Okay, so this is honestly going to be my favorite Super Bowl ever because I've been dreaming of something like this. As soon as I found out Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers, I was just hoping we were going to see a Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl. So this is just going to be a great game. I really think that Tom Brady has a great shot at leading the Buccaneers to a win. And I think that the Buccaneers are going to jump out to an early lead. But as we saw last postseason and as we saw in that AFC Championship game, no lead is safe with Patrick Mahomes. And I just feel like Patrick Mahomes has just emerged as the best quarterback right now. Tom Brady is without a doubt the GOAT, but I think Patrick Mahomes is well on his way to becoming the GOAT. And I think that this is going to be a very close game, going to come down to the last 2 minutes. I right now have the Chiefs winning 31-27 over the Buccaneers, but I do not have Patrick Mahomes as the MVP in this game for me because I think that the Buccaneers are going to be either really focused on covering Tyreek Hill so he doesn't go off for 200 yards on them, and that's going to leave Travis Kelce wide open, or they're going to be really fixated on Travis Kelce and defending him really well, and Tyreek Hill is just going to have a big day. So I think between those two, one of those two is going to have a big game, and then they're going to end up winning the MVP for me. It's also, too, just because I'm sick and tired of seeing quarterbacks win the MVP, so I'm going to predict a wide receiver or tight end here, too. But, yeah, very close game. Really looking forward to it. But the Chiefs, they're going to go back-to-back.
I wonder what the odds on taking Le'Veon Bell for Super Bowl MVP are. For me, I agree with Jacob. I'm going Chiefs. It's so hard to go against that offense. The Buccaneers' defense is good, but are they good enough to slow that offense down? And I think this is the start of Mahomes trying to catch Brady, beat him, get that second one, and you're 1/3 of the way 3 years into your career. This is people are calling this the biggest game of Mahomes' career, and it's only his third season. That just goes to show how great of a career he's had in 3 seasons. We're talking about a great career in 3 seasons. I think he has a second ring to his collection this season. And I say the final score is 38-28 Kansas City. I think it's close, 31-28, but a touchdown late seals the deal for the Chiefs, gives them that 10-point victory. And I am going to go Patrick Mahomes MVP. Sorry, Jacob, I'm going with the cliche. I think Hill and Kelce both still have great games, probably a touchdown each. But I think the focus gets spread out, and that's where not one of them stands out in particular, but Mahomes feeds them both because they're both going to be hungry. So I'm going Chiefs Kingdom back-to-back. And hopefully next year the AFC champion Cleveland Browns knock them off and keep them from getting a three-peat. But that's it for episode 13. We'll go into last call before we close things completely, though. Brendan suggested this one. We'll start with it. Favorite either Super Bowl halftime show or Super Bowl commercial with the big game this Sunday. It's the one sporting event you can't leave to go to the bathroom because the commercials are so great. Jacob, I'll start with you. You can pick a few if you'd like. Favorite commercials over the years at the Super Bowl or your favorite halftime show. What you picking?
Well, my favorite halftime show is just because I love his music, and I'm really sad that he hasn't come out with new music in the past couple of years. But when Bruno Mars did the halftime show, that was just a great halftime show right there. And two, just for meme purposes, Katy Perry Shark. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Katy Perry Shark there. So that, too, was classic. But my favorite commercial I wasn't even alive for just because these are two of my favorite athletes of all time. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird playing horse in that McDonald's commercial back in the 90s. I remember watching all these different Super Bowl commercial shows, and that one just makes me so happy to watch just because there's such legends on the basketball court, and to really see them play a game of horse like that, I'd love to see them play a legit one, not just for a commercial. That would just be great to watch.
I love it. Brendan, favorite commercials, favorite halftime show?
Favorite halftime show, Bruno Mars completely rocked it out. Super Bowl 48 at MetLife, when he opened just with that drum fill, that was awesome. And then he's just like a pure musician, just all around phenomenal musician. And then I think it was I actually did like Lady Gaga's halftime show as well. I can get into her music a little bit, so she put on a good performance. I think the only halftime show I really didn't like was Coldplay, and then Bruno Mars and Beyonce saved their butt. So looking at commercials though, the E-Trade Talking Baby one was hilarious. Just I think that was before Boss Baby came out. So that was it was just hilarious. Also, any Doritos one is pretty funny as well.
100%.
The nostalgia ones, when you get the Budweiser, the Clydesdale, the dog. How can you not love those?
Yeah.
But in the past few years, commercials haven't been that great. So hopefully they pick it up this year. I know Budweiser isn't having a commercial, which is just a bummer. But Just go on YouTube. There's so many of them. So many good ones. And, inappropriate ones, but
Yeah, you have that. Ben, your favorite halftime show and halftime Super Bowl commercials.
All right. Honestly, probably Bruno Mars. Go with that one. I like that one. I'm not one of those people that has a favorite halftime show. To be honest, I'll watch it. Most of the time, they're pretty decent, but it's not I care that much. Commercials, I know I have a couple favorites, but I just can't remember them. Ones that I know are really good.
Yeah.
But so that's tough because I know they're out there. But Bruno Mars is probably up there.
You got to go with the themes. You always think Brendan's right. Doritos are always great. The Budweiser nostalgia.
Yeah.
We've had a few good ones from other food companies like Snickers and Avocados from Mexico. Had a couple good ones in recent years. For me personally, one of my favorite commercials came last year. It wasn't great as far as volume goes last year, but there was a couple ones that were super good. And that one that I really love is Bud Light Seltzer's Post Malone commercials, where he goes in and he's like, Seltzer, Bud Light, Seltzer. And he's like, mango. That's one of my favorites. And then when he goes in the bar and they're playing in Post Malone's brand, I love those two. I laugh out loud, literally laugh every time I see those ones. But like Brendan said, the volume's not there anymore as far as commercials go, but there's still a couple that just hit you and you remember them because there's so few now. As far as halftime shows go, can't believe none of you other guys said this, but by far, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira, baby. That Super Bowl halftime show was amazing. They both sounded great and looked great. 10 out of 10.
I will admit, that music was really good, and other stuff was good too. So it was pretty good.
Their hips weren't lying, all right? But that was quite the show. But no, I agree. Bruno Mars, one of the all-time great halftime shows. And then a couple, as I really started getting into the Super Bowl, mid to late 2000s, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers was one I really liked because I do like older music. Rolling Stones was there, I think 2007. Like I said, right when I was starting to really get into the sport, really, really get into it. But
Prince is an all-time one too.
Prince was a good one too.
Purple Rain in the Rain.
Oh yeah, got to go back and watch some of these on YouTube. Just live it back, and then of course watch the Roger Davis home run in the ninth inning or eighth inning to tie the game. Give me the chills again. Last topic we're going to talk about. EA Sports has announced that NCAA football is being worked on and will be released once again in the near future. Everybody started making 2021 covers. That's not the case. They're estimating 2 to 3 years just because obviously they have to make the game and they have to figure out the whole paying the players compensation kind of thing. But just knowing that it's on the way has us all on the edge of our seat. So, Brendan, I'll start with you. Other than NCAA football, what other video game series would you bring back if you had the opportunity?
The Wii.
Just the Wii in general?
Bring the Wii. Just bring the Wii back, dude. How I could have used that during quarantine. You know how great that was to play golf.
I would do a Wii Sports with more games on it.
Basketball. The what?
Wii Sports with more sports on it.
Wii Sports Resort.
Well, yeah, but that was all running and stuff. Ben's the only one that likes to run here.
Tennis was awesome.
The sword fighting one was pretty cool. That one was pretty cool. And the 3-point contest, but
bring back the Wii, update the thing. Awesome.
I remember my mom would be like, "We're gonna run the triathlon on Wii Sports Resort." I'm like, "Mom, I don't want to run a triathlon. I just want a sword fight."
My brother and I would play it against each other. Fists were flying. It was getting so competitive. It's amazing. Just bring it back.
I actually had Brendan, that's funny you said this, because back in, I think, April or May, when we were mid-quarantine, some of the guys I lived with, we had a Wii Sports tournament, and I ended up winning the tennis tournament. My brother won golf, my friend won bowling, and my other friend won baseball. And it was pretty cool. We all stood there with the brackets and held the ball or the club or whatever. It's pretty cool.
Baseball on the Wii was great. See, So we saw their system and make some money. So that was
should have held on a little longer into 2020. All systems are going because of quarantine and everything.
The pandemic to hit. So.
Yeah, that's true. Ben,
That's how they go. Yeah.
What game series would you bring back if you could bring one back?
NCAA hoops. It's gotta be NCAA hoops.
Okay.
Gotta be.
I can respect that. Add the D3 version too. Get Colin Gurley on the game. Jacob, what series are you bringing back?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to tell Brendan, like, I kept my Wii, and I was playing that during quarantine the whole time, and I got pro level on tennis. I was like, you should call it for me. I was playing that game nonstop. My shoulders were killing me because I played out for like 2-3 hours or whatever. But I love the Wii.
You get a workout.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. They had that one game. It was called NFL Training Camp. They were literally putting you through NFL drills, like it was an actual thing. I mean, the Wii was awesome. But the game I would bring back, I just love NBA Jam because it's just a crazy game, like all the dunks and everything. But the only way that I'd play the NBA Jam game is not if they put the new guys in. Just give me like Michael Jordan, give me Scottie Pippen, give me all the old guys, give me the guys from like the original games, and I would just love to play that because I know my dad used to have some old systems, so I'd play NBA Jam on his old systems, and I just fell in love with the game. So give me NBA Jam every day.
If I'm bringing back an old one, I'm bringing back ESPN NFL 2K. 2K5 was one of the great... literally, a 2005 video game had Sports Center highlights of all the games and actually pulled highlights out of it. I think ESPN 2K was a game ahead of its generation, and if 2K got their hands on football, they'd hear out all the disgruntled Madden fans and try to make the game perfect for them just to pour some salt on EA Sports. So that's something I would bring back. And there's rumors that 2K's trying to get an NFL game back, and if they can, it's going to be interesting to see where 2K versus Madden comes into play. We all saw the baseball 2K versus the show, and the show won insurmountably, but if 2K can create an NFL game that all the fans once are in, it might blow Madden out. So we'll see, but that's definitely a game I would bring back. Other than that, SpongeBob maybe, the SpongeBob games were always fun. But that's about it for me. Do you guys have anything else to add for the greater good? Or are we all wrapped up here in episode 13? We are. So that is it for episode 13 of RaiderZone. Again, thank you to all that listened. And next week we'll be back. We'll be talking about maybe more baseball, definitely some more basketball, and the outcome of the Super Bowl. Will Brady solidify GOAT status, or Mahomes continue to run up on his coattail? You'll find out next week here on RaiderZone.